Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out on Friday morning. Can you guys hear me before we get started? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me again on Friday, the official, well, I wouldn't say official close of week 3, but it's coming to a close. And hopefully you guys have been communicating with each other and bouncing ideas off each other, and possibly watch the go-to session that I shared on Tuesday morning, going over the rough draft and some helpful tips. Unfortunately, it wasn't a live session that I shared because we had a storm here and everything was interrupted. But it is the same information, although it was a little bit early on in the year. Um, but I wanted to give you guys some visuals so you understood what I was talking about. There were some great questions asked in the session. So I do hope that you guys are taking that to the community discussion board and really sharing those concerns and sharing your knowledge and experience with each other, because this is really the time to make those connections, form those relationships, and help each other out. If you start getting in the habit of doing that the very first month, then it's something that is going to be innate inside you, and you're gonna take this as you progress throughout the entire program. And it's a strength to have that in your pocket. It's a strength to have all this diversity of talent, diversity of experience and skill level, and have people that you can contact and rely on to give you that feedback, to give you that support. And really, there is no formal discussion board. As I discussed on Monday night, there's no formal discussion board this week. It's mainly for you to concentrate on that first draft. And the discussion board is designed for you guys to share best practices, to share ideas, to share victories of programs, and maybe give some insight to your classmates on where to find that information. So it's a gathering place for you to support each other. The other suggestion that I encourage you guys to do, and again, this is just like an overview, and then I'll get into questions that you may have this morning. But another thing that was suggested or highly recommended and encouraged was to share those rough drafts on the community discussion board for this week, 3.3. The unique part about this discussion board is it doesn't close on Sunday. It actually closes the following week. So in the middle of week 4, on Wednesday, is when the discussion board would close. So I got a lot of questions, which they're awesome because that means that you're trying to get into habit and you noticed that there was a difference in the discussion board. So no, nothing was due on Wednesday like in the past. There was an initial post that was due on Wednesday and then you follow it up. The board is open for a week and a half for you guys to communicate with each other. Cool? Cool. Okay. And then just like every other week, the deadline for your first drafts is due on Sunday. So that hasn't changed. Your first draft is due on Sunday. I do want to preface this because I it's something that I addressed in the first week. I totally understand that this is the first month and you're getting acclimated to the platform and the way that things work. But as an expectation, I expect that you guys had to, now it's almost 3 weeks of a routine and deadlines and knowing how things work. So in weeks 3 and 4, I don't readily give extensions. Now, I'm not a monster, and if something happens, I expect that you contact me and let me know so I can help you. However, I expect that you are, especially when having no formal discussion board this week, that you will submit on time. Coming this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will have your first draft in and ready for me to give you feedback throughout the week. So I can get that back to you. You can start making tweaks on your final presentation and get those in. That way you have nothing to worry about and you can make a smooth transition into your new class starting that Monday. So please do your due diligence to get your assignments in on time. Part of my job is to groom you for the rest of the program. And once you start progressing into the further months, it gets more and more, those professors are expecting that, okay, well, why didn't your creative presentation instructor set you up for knowing about deadlines? Didn't she talk about deadlines? Didn't she talk about when things close and to contact your instructor? So all these things, trickles down and they start to question, well, weren't you exposed to all these things? So keep that in mind, that the expectations are going to get a little bit more intense because they feel that you've gotten this information already. You know how to turn in a file correctly. You know how to upload to FSO. You know how to send an attachment. You know how to email. All of these things. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so as far as giving good feedback and things that you should look for when it comes to building your presentation and learning about delivery and the flow of your story, and being in an environment of pitching this to a room full of people or a room full of executives or investors. And there's some things that you need to keep in mind. So I promise that this will go very quick because you guys, I know that you know this stuff. It's a matter of just being aware of it when you start build this week. And then the rest of the time, I am opening it up to you for any questions that you may have or anything that you want to run by me before we break for the weekend. Okay. So there's something called noise, and it doesn't mean that you have rock music blasting throughout your presentation, or you are banging pots and pans together, making noise. Noise has to do with distraction, and it goes on both ends. It's either distractions to you as a presenter and how you deal with that, or it's just how you distract your audience by how you deliver. So there are some things that you have to keep in mind. And the first one is credibility noise. Now, credibility is so important because essentially, if you think about the big picture here, and we should always think about the big picture, ultimately, we are trying, especially with this assignment, we're trying to get our audience to make a decision on us. So we want to do everything in our power that is going to make our audience want to hire us, want to join us, or want to invest in us. And we're structuring our presentation in a way that we're inviting this to happen. So you have 3 to 4 minutes, which essentially is, it could be a lot of time to certain people, or it could be, oh my God, this is not enough time. So if you think about it as the invitation to connect, that may resonate with you. So credibility is huge, because credibility is what builds your relationship. It makes your audience trust you. And if your audience doesn't trust you, they will tune out for the rest of the presentation. So a negative first impression, that could be you haven't done your research. Would flattering the audience affect the presentation negatively? Kathy, that is a really good question. I think it would be based on your tone and delivery on how you would flatter the audience. If it sounds like it's sarcastic or even condescending, or it isn't genuine, then it could affect the presentation negatively. But we're all human beings, and I think we all love compliments, and correct me if I'm wrong. So that could be an effective way for you to engage your audience. But really, when it comes, we talked about first impressions, and you really only get one chance. You get one chance at a first impression. And, depending on whether or not your audience, your fans, your clients are forgiving, they may or may not give you a second chance. So you want to make that impactful first impression. If you're walking into a presentation and you don't understand to whom you're speaking to, you don't understand your audience, they will smell it out from a mile away. So you want to address your audience. And that could simply be, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. So it could be a very simple greeting, but you're acknowledging their presence. Does that make sense? Cool. Again, finding no common ground. All of these things, and of course, again, we know that Nancy is not about bullet points. But for the effect of educating you guys and having to, if you're watching this presentation back, there are bullet points so you can kind of cues when you watch this presentation back. But all of these things are connected into really knowing who your audience is. You need to know who your audience is. You need to know who you're speaking to, because Bethesda will know if you're really talking to Ubisoft, because Ubisoft and Bethesda, although they are gaming companies, they are very different brands, if that makes sense. So they, the same thing with Disney and DreamWorks. If you're speaking to Disney and um, you bring up a DreamWorks movie, then that might be insulting. It would be insulting to them because obviously you didn't do your homework. So you want to make sure that you know your audience, and this is what I commented on in your feedback for the plans. If your audience was a generalization, then I helped you um, rein that in. Many of you had several companies that you're interested in. And of course, that is wonderful. And if you think about it, when you are ready and when you want to seek employment, of course, you don't want to put your eggs all in one basket and you want to have different opportunities. But for the purpose of this assignment, especially when it comes to practicing the way that you will conduct yourself, focusing on one company is stronger. That your delivery will reflect that because you will be speaking to that company directly. The same thing goes for someone that has the idea of building their own record label or having their own production company or having their own company a website where they recruit talent. You need to have a focus group. The universe is extremely vast, and I gave you guys the example of the pasta. If my pasta didn't have anything to stick to, if there was no cabinets, there were no walls, then it would just go into the atmosphere and not stick. And the same goes for your idea or your pitch or your purpose. If you throw it out into the universe, it may take light years to to stick or come back or get a decision, and that just will take too long. This earth may not even be there when someone responds to your message. Um, does that make sense? Cool. Okay, it's not forwarding. Okay, there it goes. Okay, experiential noise. Okay. I want you guys to take a deep breath because, and I addressed this in Monday night session, and even though it's an archive, I still address it. For the first draft, I do not want you to stress over the time. Don't stress over the time. Because what happens if you stress over the time and you make yourself crazy over getting to 3 minutes or narrowing your project down to 4 minutes, you're missing a step. And I don't want you to miss out on the process of building. So forgo the minimum and maximum requirement for the final presentation. I want you to practice. I want you to get everything that you want to get out. Now, this is not an extension of your plans. You already handed in your plans to me last Sunday, and I gave you feedback. Now what I want to see is that you're taking that feedback and you're building your presentation, you're building your story based on the guidance that I gave you in your feedback. So I'm not looking for an audio presentation of your plans. Does that make sense? Okay. So, for example, what I don't want to see is, and for my why, I'm going to talk about XYZ. I want you to start talking about it, start giving your story. Essentially, you are writing your script for narration, and then you are building your complementary slides to go with it. Now, understand this is a first draft. So, are things going to change? Absolutely, they are. Absolutely. Change is inevitable. Do not fear change. Change is, to me, when I'm observing these first draft, change to me is like, wow, this person's really in tune with their goals, and they're taking the time to elicit feedback from their classmates and read my feedback and taking everything into consideration and making adjustments. So to me, that shows how mature you are, that shows how open-minded you are, and that shows me that you have the desire to um, to evolve. And that's a great thing. That's a great what's the word I'm looking for? That for yourself, that's just wonderful for your journey. It just opens you up to so many possibilities and keeps you open-minded and excited about what you're embarking on. So forgo the minimum and maximum requirement. Now, for the love of anything, and I said this on Monday, but for the love of anything that you find holy in this world, know that I have 3 sections of you guys, and a 20-minute long first draft is going to make me sad. I I can't. I cannot. I, if I were to watch 20-minute presentations for the amount of students that I have, it would just be way too long. And then you also have to think about uh, the people that you're sending it to. Hypothetically, of course, but think about how extremely busy they are, and keep that in mind. But if it's 6 minutes, if it's 7 minutes, 8 minutes, that's more information that I have to guide you to cut down. So don't worry about that. But if you're going over those marks, you really need to consider editing a bit more. Okay, Kathy asked a question. I'm currently working on a piece of artwork for my presentation, but it's not done yet. I'm not sure I'll finish it in time for the first draft. Should I just include what I've done already? Absolutely. It's understood that's the beauty of this class, is that each week builds on each other. It's understood a week is not a large amount of time to get everything that you want to put in your presentation together. There's also some of my students that are in the film program and want to do a video for this presentation. And I understand, trust me, I was there, filming it, editing it, putting things together takes a long time. So all I would ask for you guys, whether you're in Kathy's position or you are creating a video, all I ask for your first draft is build a PowerPoint presentation just for your first draft to practice your narrative and have a slide that says my artwork is going here, or I have an original piece going here. That will give me an indication and your classmates an indication of what your plans are for the final presentation. Like, I plan to have a piece of my artwork here, or I'm planning to go out and video myself in different situations. Is that clear? Is that cool? Cool. And you're welcome, Kathy. Absolutely. Okay, so some other things that could distract your audience, and I found this out the hard way. As you guys know, one, I'm from New York, so my cadence is very quick sometimes, and I can talk really fast. I have to slow myself down. Um, I'm also Italian, so I talk with my hands a lot. And I didn't realize just how much I fell into that stereotype of a New York Italian until I had to video myself teaching my class. And I went for my national boards, and that was part of our preparation for a reflection paper. And oh my goodness, I did not only talk with my hands, but I mean, flailing my arms and they would just go all over the place. And that could be very distracting for your audience because they're kind of they're listening to your voice, but their eyes are following your hands. And I actually had a senior class that wanted to challenge me. They said, Miss V, would you be able to teach us a lesson if we tied your hands behind our back, behind your back? Would you be able to speak? And I was like, you guys are funny. But it could. Body language could be very distracting. However, if you stay in one place, that can also be distracting. That could put people to sleep. So you do want movement, you just have to be aware of that movement. And of course, being unprepared and unrehearsed, your audience will know. Your audience will know that you're unprepared. Um, oh, I'm so glad that I'm not alone. That's awesome. That I'm not alone. Cool. Okay, the other thing is, and this is something that's see, I do it. You just heard it here. Ums, ahs, and like. This is something that comes across naturally in conversation. We use it in everyday conversation, so it's really difficult not to use it. All I'm asking here is that you become aware of it. You become aware of maybe how many times you say or ah or like, or what's another one that comes up? Basically comes up all the time. And uh, so it's so this and so that. That's an extremely common transition word. So you want to, oh, well, yeah, well comes up very often also. And it's just a fact of you being aware that you're doing it. It's understood that we are all at the beginning stages, and it's something that we have to practice. I even do it myself, and I've been teaching for a long time. It's just a matter of being aware of how many times that you do it. If you use too much jargon, and this could be essentially, jargon could be slang words, which can constitute as an inside joke or something that you speak about with your friends, and it doesn't necessarily resonate with your audience because they don't know the meaning behind it. Or it could simply be words that are over their heads. So just be aware of all these different noises that you can make. When it comes to feedback, it's a strength to have the mindset that there's always room for improvement. If on either side of the coin, and I mean whether you are giving feedback or you're receiving feedback, keeping this in your mindset will help you grow. So this actually, a quick story, is a picture from a camp called Camp Failure. Now, you would think, how could parents send their children to a camp that is called Camp Failure? How defeating. On the contrary, it's devised to give an awareness that failure is not the end. It's actually a beginning. It's a beginning to a new opportunity, to a new direction, to a lesson. So failure is not the end. It's just an opportunity for improvement. And if you adopt this mindset, you allow yourself to grow. You allow yourself to be open-minded and porous to all the things that could make you evolve and become a better you. Does that make sense? Cool. So I'm not going to bore you with bullet points. Instead, I'm just going to conversate to you. When you're giving feedback, you want to keep in mind that everybody is vulnerable. We all are. It's really what connects us as human beings. We all have that vulnerable spot. So you have to keep that in mind when you're giving feedback, that everyone has that soft spot. And you want to be as positive as you possibly could be. So there might be things within a presentation that you have to address because essentially you want to support that person and you want to help them with your ideas and experience to be awesome, and support that idea. So you have to be careful in your word choice when you're giving feedback. And the simplest thing that you can do to make the person feel comfortable is address them by name. Now, I understand that you're like, wow, do you really have to tell us that, Miss P? I do, because sometimes that goes overlooked and it's the simplest thing that you can do. So addressing the person by name, you are setting up that relationship just by saying, good morning, Mark, or hello, Mark, or, and then going into your feedback. You're setting up that relationship. You're setting up that acknowledgement. And now there's the comfort in that. Okay, this person's paid attention to me. They paid attention to my presentation and they're taking the time to offer their insights. So you want to start off with a positive, and that could be, how much you appreciate them sharing their presentation, or you may find something within their presentation that resonated with you or connected to you or made you think. And of course, if you're picking out things from a presentation, that gives the other person another indication that you took the time to look things over. When giving feedback, you want to make sure that you're specific in what you're giving. I'll ask you guys this question. If you received feedback from me last week on your plans that said, "Great job, awesome," and then that was it, how would you feel? Oh, do I take silence as that would be a good thing? That you might feel good for a minute? Dale, that I'm lying to you? No, hopefully, I mean, you guys are doing it. You really are doing a great job. But it would never, it wouldn't give you what you needed. So, yeah, Kathy, this is mostly how people would feel flattered, but also confused on what you need improvement on. And also confused on what it was that you did awesome. Because I do that too. Even if you got an A plus, or even an A, I'm giving you insight for the future to give you what you did that was awesome so you can continue to do that. So being specific is essential for giving feedback. It allows for the person to really understand what areas they can improve on and what areas that they excelled in and really connected with the audience. On the flip, on receiving feedback, it's really changing that perception. It's allowing yourself to get that support and that advice without being defensive. Because as human nature, we're very defensive creatures, and we react instead of proact sometimes. And in order to make this relationship between the person that's giving feedback to the person that's receiving feedback a strength, perception needs to change. And if you do keep that mindset, then you'll receive what you need to receive in order to finish awesome. Okay, so I have preached enough, and we have about 20 minutes, and I want to open it up to you guys on any questions, concerns that you may have regarding the rough draft as we close out this week. Do you guys have any questions for me? Anything that you want to run by me, or your classmates for that matter? Maybe? Is that maybe that you have to think about it and get me later, or okay, so you have to think about it. That's cool. If you would, please get those questions to me before the close of Friday. That would be awesome. Because no, I do check my emails on Saturday morning, but that's it. After I wake up in the morning and check them, that's it. Then the weekend is family time. Okay, Dale, great question. So for clarification, and forgive me, the people that watch the video back don't get to see the chat box, so I'm asking, I say your questions out loud. So just for clarification, we basically make a final draft, image, audio, and video. Yes. So when I sent you guys the email/announcement on Tuesday, I put that in there. I put, essentially, you should think about this week and this build as if you are building the final presentation, because that's what you're doing. You know, all this building, all this preparation, all the plans, it's going towards that final presentation. So if you keep in mind that you're doing this all for that final presentation, then you are going to include everything that needs to be included that you want feedback on. Does that make sense? Cool. Very cool. Also understand that if you guys are having some trouble with, audio, learning about different audio programs that you could use for your narration, go to 3.3, the discussion board. I shared some different programs that you could use, and some of your classmates have already shared some things that are working for them. So make sure that's an extra added bonus that you can go and get some insight on what you can use and what's user friendly and what works for everyone else. Well, I'm so glad that I read your mind. That means that I'm doing my job and I'm answering all the questions and I'm aware of concerns. So cool. Is there any other questions that you may have before we close out for the rest of the day? Kathy, yeah, it's understood. It's understood. It is a lot. You guys have been through a lot, and just rest that brain. So my recommendation to you is walk away for a little while. Maybe watch a show on Netflix, go for a walk, do something that will relax your brain for a little while. I do not recommend you going into the assignment right now because it will stunt your creativity. So take a break and let your mind rejuvenate. Of course, of course. Um, whenever Kimberly, whenever you feel comfortable. I mean, you throughout the entire week, I told you guys that you could start at any point because really, you created your plans and you could start the build at any time. Just think like if you start building and you want to change things, how easy it is if you have the templates up there already. If you decide like no, I don't want that, you can go back and make the tweaks. So whenever you want to start is amazing, especially with that deadline coming up on Sunday night. So, um, but keep your head right though. Do not. I don't recommend, especially going back to Kathy's comment. I don't recommend if you are are too consumed with everything and you need to clear your mind and come back. It's more beneficial to you. Dale, don't be scared. You can only keep in mind you can only evolve from here. So do not be scared to record. This is practice. You are not going to take this presentation and pitch to the company tomorrow. You're pitching to me. So do not be scared to record. This is practice. It could only get better from here. All right, guys. Really, really strong questions. Again, just to review, for people that are watching this back, go to the discussion board 3.3 for support. And if you are so bold to be vulnerable and offer yourself your first draft for some feedback to help you enhance your presentation, put that up on 3.3. Keep in mind that this is the first draft, so do not stress yourself out over the time constraints. However, please don't go over 10 minutes because I won't be able to listen past that. So please don't go over 10 minutes, but don't stress yourself out over the time. Remember that this is a first draft and change is inevitable. There are things that are going to change. I will look for it. It shows me that you're evolving, so don't be afraid of change. It's supposed to happen. And have fun with it. This is practice. You have nothing to lose at this point but to dream big. And the fact that you guys are dreaming big is exciting. And it just sets goals for yourself as you progress through the program. So keep that in mind. Take as much time as you need to heal yourself and just be positive and excited. And I really look forward to these. If you guys have any questions as we close the session, you know where to reach me. You can email me, message me. I will get back to you in a timely manner. If it is, 10 o'clock tonight, know that I probably won't get back to you until later. So if you would get those questions in by later this afternoon, that would be awesome. And I'll be able to answer those for you. But other than that, TGIF sees the weekend, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend and be safe, be well, be positive, and I'll talk to you soon.